Welcome to the Weaponized Marriage Podcast. So today we're going to talk about modern marriage is under attack. And this has been kind of an episode that we've had a couple of recent conversations about, but also stems back to, I think, a couple months ago. Ryan and I were driving in the car and we were listening to a podcast. I believe it was The Diary of a CEO. I don't remember the woman that was speaking, but she was like an expert on like father and like wounds and relationships. And one of the things that really stood out is the host. I don't know what his name is.
Steven.
Steven, yeah, of The Diary of CEO, which is a great podcast, was sharing about how he had this one friend, female, very successful, and he was saying about how like he thought she was joking with him, but they were talking about how there's this whole generation, younger generation, I don't know exactly what age or what the generation is called, that like they're growing up with AI where they can even have relationships with AI, where it's like you can converse with AI like you are having a relationship with them. And then like thinking about like the fact that like there is legit, they have engineered all of the reasons that you actually need to have a relationship in this day and age.
Oh, yeah. Engineered it out of necessity.
Out of necessity.
Well, they've engineered the
The
necessity of
necessity
it.
of, yeah. And so he was talking a little bit about how like people like they can't even have a conversation because they are literally texting and they can talk via text, but they don't know how to actually communicate in person. Shared this example of this one friend of his that like he was having a very like trying to have a cordial conversation with, and he was like, so are you like dating or anything like that? And she was like, I am totally happy just being with my plants. And he thought she was joking around. But reality is she's like, yeah, like I go home, I tend to them, I take care of them. I know that they feel loved when they start to bloom. Like she had this whole like story behind that, like there's no need for her to have a relationship in her life. And it would actually complicate it rather than complement it. I was like, "Oh my god, this is, like, amazing," and then fast forward to a couple of things that have happened in the last couple weeks. One was we had a really good friend of ours who basically found out, single woman, same thing, super, like, very successful on her own, owns a home, like, the whole shebang, um, not been in a relationship since we've known her, and then she just, found out that she's been trying to adopt for several years and had a chat like, basically overnight has a baby, which we are so excited for her, and she's gonna be an amazing mom, but, like, it just led us to also have this conversation because I even said, I was like, "Does she have a partner or anything like that?" And Ryan was like, "No." He's like, "You don't even need that. Like, you don't even need that to have a kid these days," and which has been the case for a while, but got us into this conversation. And then I started to share about my experience where I just went to my first official bachelorette party, which was so amazing. And what was very interesting about it was this is a really good friend of ours. The male is the friend of ours, and he is getting remarried. And we're at that age where a lot of the people that we're going to weddings, they're probably possibly second marriages, right? And so I went to this bachelorette party. The uh woman who's amazing, he's marrying, she is 10 years younger than him.
I don't know. Doesn't
But it does matter because I was thinking how ridiculous it is that I'm going to be the oldest person at this bachelorette party,
Okay, so talk about
which
the
I was.
bachelorette party.
And I was like, am I being ridiculous going to this? But it was so interesting to me on many, many facets. One, like I said, I had a great time. But one of the biggest things that I got a tremendous amount of insight with or into was this thing called hookup culture. Now all of the girls are 29, 30, I would say between 29 and 31 years old. With the exception of the bride-to-be, there was one girl that was married. All the other, I think there were 12 of us, were not married, and then her mom was there also. Her mom's amazing, and her mom's friends, which I was like, "That's so
Who
special,"
none of them are married.
and all of them were divorced. And so I was like, "Oh, this is such an interesting dynamic," like, if I look at it from this big picture. And, so 2 things stand out. Number 1 is when I think it was the first night we played this game that they got on Amazon called, like, Girl Talk or something like that. And, it was really fun. It was kinda like a Cards of Humanity, but, like, kinda like for bachelorette parties, right? And it was like, a person reads a question on the card, everyone goes around, answers the question, and, like, the person that read the card picks the winner, like, that has the best answer. So some of the like, to give you an example. One of the ones I won, which I was so freaking proud of myself, was like, "What is the like, one of your best sex memories?" or something like that. And so I shared the story about the love cloud, that we've talked about on the podcast before, and, they they chose me as the winner, and I was so excited to tell you that. And, then but what was so interesting is, like, I was starting to get to know these girls there, and like I said, um, these were all I was pleasantly surprised. First of all, it's very rare that you put a bunch of women that don't know each other in a house all together, and they get along. Like, it was like all of these women were just very genuine. And, but so interesting as I'm starting to get to know them, I'm like, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend or do you have a girlfriend or do you have like, do you have a significant other?" And I start to realize that I'm basically the only one married, probably because 'cause I'm old. And, they're like, "Oh," and I was like, "So how do you guys, like, meet people?" And a couple of them had just recently gone through breakups and stuff like that, and they're like, "Oh, like Hinge," all these different dating websites, right? And I was like they're like, "Do you wanna go through, like, some of the profiles and, like, pick out some guys that, like, for us and, like, for fun?" We were joking around. And I literally watched them and, like, watching them go through these guys, like, it's less than a second of their selection process, right? Of like, "Oh, nope, oh, nope." And come to find out, one of the things they were sharing with me was that the biggest thing, the deciding factors was the guy's picture, not his look, but more so, like, they're like, "I delete anybody with sunglasses on," or, like, "I delete anybody that looks like," like, they didn't put any effort into selection of the picture, where it's like, "Hey," basically, they're hiding or they're not really putting their full, self forward. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." So we end up going out to the bar or the bars, and, I it like, we played a game at the bar too. Obviously, I'm not playing because I'm married. But they had to, like, talk to these guys and, like, try to get a conversation and then get a number. And this is the funniest part. One of the guys, literally, I'm taking a picture as part of the game with this one girl, and I take the picture, and I kid you not, this guy, without any permission whatsoever other than she asked him to take a picture, literally grabs her by the face and puts his mouth on her mouth and tries to kiss her. And she backs up and she just, like, pushes him away. She's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. I asked for a picture, not like a kiss." And he's like and she ended up giving her his number just to win the game. And
So it worked.
it did work. And I was just, like, so taken aback at how forward this guy was. And then, like, we are leaving the bar and this guy texts her and is like, "How about I go get us a room at the St. Regis? You ditch your girls and, like, we have some fun the rest of the weekend," or something like that. I was like, "Holy shit, the balls on this guy." And then the second part was this other guy that another person had talked to, takes a picture with her, like, that's the game, right? And then she gives him his phone number, part of the game, And this guy reaches out and he's like, "Hey, this is my pin of where I'm at." And he drops a pin on his location. And I'm like, this conversation these two have had is literally like, "Can we get a picture? And then how about I get your number just in case we wanna hang out later?" Like, something like that. So he drops a pin, sends her a picture of the pool of the place they're staying at, which who knows if that was actually the pool, and we're like she responded, she's like, "I'm already with my girls, and we have a pool that looks just like that." Like, no need to play. The next picture that comes, same guy, is legit a bag of cocaine. And
Up
he
the
says,
ante.
"Are you sure you don't want to join?" Now, this is the even more funny part. This girl is so sweet. I could not see her doing cocaine in any shape or fashion. So he totally read that wrong, first of all, and or was just already so high he
Well,
couldn't figure it out.
shot is shot. What do you mean?
So, but I was like, but it was like I was like, this isn't the matter of an hour, and we had already started talking about how this is the culture of dating, and I was like, "Holy fuck, I've never sat in a conversation and been like, 'Thank God I'm fucking married.'" Like, I would die and be eaten alive if this was, like, how I had to go about meeting someone in this day and age. And then it proceeded to this same thing, one of the sweet, sweet girls, she was telling me about how her dad owns a business and he's a really hard worker, and she literally lifted up her phone, she showed me a picture, it was Saturday morning. He's 79 years old, and he was out there, like, leaf blowing his yard at 6 a.m. before he went to his work at 79 years old.
Shit done.
And I think he owned, like, a mechanic shop or, like a train trucking type company. And she was saying, she's like, about how hard it is for him to find young men. Our conversation was she has 3 sisters 2 sisters, so he has 3 daughters, and she was, like, saying, she's like, "I don't know how I'm ever gonna find a man that's gonna work like my dad in this age," and I felt so bad for her because after this experience the previous night, I was like, "I don't know either."
So what after okay, after all that story, like
Yes, sorry.
what did you take from that? What does that have to do with
Well, like I said, obviously the gratitude that I'm not in that culture. Obviously the reminder that again, like we're living in a time where like all of these girls have jobs, all of them make money, all of them
so
are very
why would they
smart,
want to get married?
but they do.
Why?
They do. They want
They do.
maybe not to have a be married right now at that age, but maybe they all want families.
Right.
They all want
But you don't need a guy to have family.
relationship, but, like, they want relationship beyond the family,
Right.
right? So,
Well,
like,
that's a different story.
um, it just made me really grateful. Like, it did,
So I have a question then.
yeah,
So
lead me where I need to go. I don't
after
know.
all of that stuff. Okay, so do you think the institution of marriage
Yes.
is under attack and like being like being communicated in sort of like culture that it's becoming obsolete or it's no longer a benefit or like it's no longer that viable of an option. Like you don't need to do it. It's not like it's a something that you're eventually will want to do. Or do you think it's more like the culture of young men and young women are being well, they're growing up in a culture that doesn't lend itself to creating relationships.
Yes.
Do you think it's both?
I think it's both. I think the institution of what is marriage is I mean, when we got married, I didn't know what marriage was. I
Mhm.
think that I would could much more
So why did you want to
define it
why
now.
did you want to get married then?
I mean, obviously, I wanted to have a family. Um, that was a big thing for me, even though we waited a long time to have a family, like,
Do
we
you think a
waited.
lot of people that's the reason they want to get married is because they want to have a family? Because I would think that you feel a lot more secure in like a committed relationship as a marriage is
Yeah.
to raise a family versus like, hey, we'll have a kid together and see what happens.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more people choosing that now.
Well, in Europe especially. So
Yeah.
I didn't know this. So I talked to my assistant at the office is British and her daughter
Mhm.
lives in
That's true.
Spain, and she's married and going to have a baby. But the husband's sister is also having a baby at the same time, and she's not married to the father. And it's like totally normal.
Normal. Mhm.
Yeah, it's one of those things like there's no expectation that they will get married. There's no like so many European couples are just doing life together, having kid and not getting married. And I just found that interesting that it's more culturally accepted in Europe than it is in North America.
Well, I also think the institution of divorce is much
Is that an institution?
more
That's not an institution.
it is more prevalent in the US,
That's more of like the the prevalence of divorce. Yeah.
and it's also very easy to do now.
It depends what state you're in.
Well, I guess that's true. But it's very easy to come to that
I
decision.
just think it's so common though.
Yeah.
Like it's more common than ever.
Yeah.
Women are getting more divorces than men. It's like a 70-30. More
Oh,
women.
really?
Yep. So
Excellent.
yeah, guys are less likely to ask for divorce than women are.
Well, there's a reason behind that.
Yeah, I'm not going to speculate. I don't know, but I'm just talking factually. Um, but I think there's two things. That one of them is that I think younger people are being raised in a culture like you're describing. Like there's the hookup culture. There's like all the opportunity to not need a partner in order to meet your goals. If your goal is to have a family, or if your goal is to like be stable and make money and buy a home, like
Mhm.
men and women are like offered like women, the opportunity for women is like greater than it's ever been before. Right. So as far as like women needing a man in order to like
Mhm.
achieve any financial or like material goals is no longer the
Yep.
case. So there's just I think what you had said, like we've engineered society in a way that like anybody can kind of have the stuff that they maybe think they want without needing to do it as a partnership. But then also there's the other side of things where the institution of marriage has evolved
Mhm.
clearly. And I think a lot of younger people, the way I've heard it is like not all of them want to like have what they watched growing up. They're like,
Mhm. Yeah.
my
Yep.
parents were miserable or my grandparents are miserable and they just stayed together for the kids or they stayed together in spite of one another. And I never saw them like loving or they just worked their ass off to raise us and they never really I saw them joyful. And so I
Yeah.
think that like marriage has evolved into something different now, but I think there's a lot to be said of what that can look like for people. Um, and then also, I I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it depends which road you want to go down. You want to talk about how marriage is under attack, like culturally, or do you want to talk about like because I don't know because I'm not 20, 30 years old. Like
Yeah.
I don't know
Mhm.
what culture's like as far as that hookup culture and like what everybody's talking about and saying about marriage and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's under attack in like I mean, it's not going away, but I think that people are gonna have to be really conscious about like what are the reasons that they want to get married. And they're gonna be have to be intentional with their relationships. Like I know a lot of people that are better divorced, but they're really amazing co-parents. But they have intention behind the co-parenting, right? And then I also know people that have got divorced and then like literally had a next level relationship come into their life because they started to heal a lot of the stuff that they didn't know when it came to actually building a marriage. Um, and I think it's like any relationship, you have to both be vested in like mm, co-creating what that is, what marriage means to you
I just think
and
a
defining
lot of
it.
people when they get into it, I just don't think like we didn't. I don't think
Mm,
people realize like this is eventually what you want to try to build as a married couple. And this is how you do it. Here's the playbook. Here's what you have to do. Like there's none of that, right? I mean, I guess there's marriage counseling in churches,
Mhm.
but as far as like, there's no universal, like, here's what you do in order to have a great marriage.
Yeah,
Because it is a very complicated thing. Um, but I think that like there's less people getting married than ever before. That's for
for sure.
sure. There's less people having children than ever before. And
Mhm.
we're talking about North America specifically.
Yeah.
And I think that's because like relationships are they're very difficult.
There's so many variables in it, right? Um, too, and then it's like, I mean, for me, it's so interesting to look at like the concepts of like second marriages and really see like what was different than the first one, right? And what you start to see is that people, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, they start to define the things that are really important to them. And this is where, like I said, it comes down to intention of like, hey, you don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate, right? And there's a lot of people I think that start to tolerate things in their relationship, and because it's easier to tolerate than to actually confront, because the confrontation part can be really uncomfortable. But I think that like one of the things that's been amazing with us in therapy is like we have a lot of hard conversations with a third party that is there to not put us like just to hold it and then to give us a container for us to work in.
Well, and it brings awareness, like, because no matter what, you're gonna have your your approach to a certain situation. And sometimes it takes someone else to kind of show you like, hey,
Mhm.
this is how you're showing up and this is how you're doing it. Like, do you think that's really the problem? And then you realize over time, it's like, oh, wow, I guess like either I am the problem or I really am not being flexible about, right, changing the situation or communicating about this. But
Yeah, and I think sometimes that like I speak for myself, like the just a recent conversation we had just this weekend is, I think it's really hard for sometimes when you start to see some things in yourself that you know are either holding you back or you're afraid of, and it's hard to show those things. It's hard to show messy when you're in the mess and you want to be, like I said, speaking for myself, someone who always feels like I've got it together, or I'm holding it together, or I'll figure it out. Like those are some of the narratives that drive me. But I started to look at those narratives and be like, oh man, maybe what if I actually let you figure out some of the stuff? What if I actually like let go of some of my responsibility instead of hold it so tightly that I have to do all of it? Um,
yeah, or the other way around. What if it's like, well, I need to step up and start doing something?
yeah, it could be
Could be
completely
the opposite.
opposite.
But I just want to say this, like, just to make it not so convoluted and complicated and way off topic now, is that when you're choosing to be part of a marriage, you're choosing to grow. You have no choice, but you have to grow. And if you don't, eventually, like, you're going to start to wear on the person.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, like after years of being together, like your shit's all going to come to the surface.
Mm.
Whether it's like, you know, uh, who knows? Like everybody's shit is different, right? Which is why everyone has their own work. But um, if you choose to not grow, and a lot of times that looks like my wife is nagging at me because of this,
Mhm.
but it's like that bitch, like she just fucking doesn't she's ungrateful about all the good stuff I do. And then similarly, if it's like, oh, she doesn't do this for me anymore, like, or she's not noticing me, she's not like
Paying attention.
paying attention to me. So, and if you just, and it's not that you're always not bringing attention to it, maybe you are, but it just sounds like you're complaining or you're nagging. And people don't respond to that. It's not like, think about like a boss or a coach. Like if all they did was like talk about the things that you're not doing
You're
well
not, or you need to
or the
improve
things you got to
upon,
work
or
on,
yeah.
then the chances of you like losing desire to like want that person as your coach or your boss is not very good. Our dog has got a hair across his ass right now. So, I mean, which is why it's like you have to just stay very intentional, right? And just it's hard not to want to like try to make the other person change.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And which is why like marriage forces you to grow. Marriage forces you to grow because you both have to like
Hold on.
Huckleberry.
You keep talking. I'm gonna
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it forces you to put your ego aside and really take ownership of, hey, what my wife is saying, maybe it's true, or what my husband's saying, maybe it's true, right?
Mhm.
Which is why I think like that's where marriages grow, is when the person is willing to humble themselves and listen. Like, men are notorious for just like not listening, right?
Mhm.
And then women are notorious
Bitching.
for, yeah, nagging, right? So, and there's something to it, right? It's not that like all guys are deaf and stupid and all women are like bitchy and naggy. It's like that shit just it comes out like that over time, because no matter what, you're gonna wear on each other. And you have to learn how to like when it gets hard, you have to
Learn how to write the train.
yeah, I mean, but that comes with doing your own work. But anyway, so I think the institution of marriage, it gets a bad rap because like I guess more than half of them fail. I think that a lot of people tie it to like religious connotations, like, oh, I got to get married in a church, or it's just there because it's an old religious institution that like doesn't apply to my life because I'm not religious, or it's only there for the tax benefits, right? So
Which aren't great.
no, but you know what I mean? Like it's sort of it's an old institution that has clearly lasted generations, thousands of years for a reason.
I think where I would bring it to close is this though. Um, I've paid attention to this a lot lately, and as my mom has aged, and like I said, my mom was my age when my dad died. And even my friend that I went to her memorial service yesterday, she was talking about how her mom lost her husband at she was 43 when her mom lost her husband. And it made me reflect on that of like, holy shit, like there are these women that I know that never had they don't have relationship at the end of their life. Um, and I think it is such a hard thing to watch, and I think a lot of people will turn around and look at it of
Well, it's companionship.
yes, companionship is like like part of just like you and I have had this conversation before is like people need physical touch,
Yeah.
right? And that is like I remember what stands out to me with the physical touch part is you like there's a couple things you need as you start to age. And this is gonna be going beyond marriage, but it's like one is like physical touch is important. And I don't mean sexual touch. It doesn't have to be sexual. Like you shared this story with one of our friends. Remember we were talking to Nick in the kitchen and you were sharing about the patient that like you were like you gave him a hug or something like that and he hadn't been like
Kind of, but yes.
because he was having a hard time.
This
And
wasn't my patient, but this is part of the reason people go to chiropractors. Some people just they need the physical touch. Like they
yeah,
lonely people and they're like, I love getting adjusted because it's just like I get to connect with somebody and I get physical touch. So they're never gonna say that, but
yeah,
I know that's
yeah.
true.
And so talking
From
about
another
that, it's
person
like
because it's human.
it's
It's
like
human.
why when I'm like when my mom sees Lily, she's like, "Give me a hug, give me a kiss." Like there's not even greeting. That's her first request because she gets so little physical touch or like she like never lets me leave without hugging her, which I always pay attention to because I was like I am her only physical touch other than like she gets a massage once in a while, she gets her hair done. Like
Yeah,
so
it's a human need.
it's a human need, right? And then the second thing is like companionship, like you said, like actually social relationships. And this is where, like I said, marriage being under attack, like this is a huge thing that I think is like we're not gonna know the effects of till way down the line. But like I look at it's just like I know so many women, more women than men, if I'm being honest, that have outlived their husbands And
Well, statistically,
there
women do out.
and
Yeah.
statistically that does happen, right? And it's like they're just that they are alone, and part of it, like, this is why, like, when people go into, like, an assisted living situation or, like, a nursing home of some sort of like, they tend to start like, at the beginning, they tend to thrive a little bit more with the interaction, of the social aspects that they were not getting in their home if they lived by themselves or they did not have a significant other or kids that came and took care of them or caretakers in general. And I just think that it's really important part of, like, this conversation of, like, just, like, the importance of actual companionship, and relationship regardless of how old you are.
Mhm.
And I think that people that are and I agree, like, you don't have to be married to have that. Like, I know a lot of people that are not married that have relation like, from the outside, you would never know it unless you knew that they didn't have that piece of paper.
Yeah, I think I mean, those are all good points. I just can't help but think that we're always trying to make things easier as a society, like
Mm, yeah.
with GLP-1 meds, with like AI, with
Mhm.
self-driving cars, with desk jobs, working remotely from home. Like we're literally trying to engineer our lives to be so fucking easy.
Isolated and
W-
isolated.
Well, so inevitably what happens is you just start moving more and more away from
Mhm.
your natural requirements, right? Whether it's like sunlight or enough water or physical touch or
Mm,
walking. And I think part of the reason that um, marriage is under attack is because marriage is difficult and people don't want to do hard things. And it's way easier to knock marriage. It's way easier to talk shit about it, think negatively of it, have an opinion that's not great because of like your parents or somebody else you saw that got divorced or whatnot. But the reality is like the most fruitful relationship you'll ever have in your life is your marriage if you decide to get married. However, it doesn't come without a lot of work.
mhm.
And the same thing is true about your physical health in your body. The same thing is true about building a business or raising a child. Like it takes a lot of effort, energy, time, sweat, blood, tears, all that.
Mhm.
And I think just there's just people that don't want to put in the work, and that's fine. Like I don't think marriage is for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think it's for people that want that expansion and that fruitful companionship relationship that could be the most amazing masterpiece they could ever work on in their life. But, they just have to hear it from people that have done it.
But it's just like anything, you have to be intentional, and you have to also, like, surround yourself with real role models,
Mhm.
like anything is like what's that saying is like you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and it's like, um
Yeah. Spend time with couples that have really great marriages.
yes, and here's the thing, what you will find when you spend time with couples that have great marriages is they have their ups and downs.
Yeah.
They ebb and flow. They've had their trauma. They've had their peaks, and it's like, but if you can spend time with couples that legit are open about talking about what those things are, then those are the people I wanna be spending time with. I don't need to go out to people, just to have fun, you
You could
know?
just go on Instagram if you want to see everyone's great marriage.
True.
It's not, you don't want to hang out with people that just all you see is the highlight reel
Yeah,
because then you compare yourself to that and you're like, well, mine doesn't look like
yeah,
that. We must,
why are we
we must be
yeah,
fuck ups. This must not be working.
mhm, yeah. So I think that that's a huge thing is just, like, it comes down to intention, just like anything, of, like, you have to want to put in the work, and both of you have to want to put in the work. But I do think this too is that, like, I know Tony Robbins teaches this, and I go back to it often. Is like he talks about the two things that make marriage work, and and everybody always thinks it's like attraction, and he's like it has nothing to do with attraction. Actually, he's like that's usually the initial draw. But he said, but what actually makes relationships work is he's like, there's two things. One is proximity, and then the other one is, like, literally feeling like you can be yourself in front of that person, and that means all versions of you. But that also means that you have to do the work on yourself too when you're putting out a version that you know is not your best foot.
Your best foot.
Your best foot
I don't
forward.
like the foot that you're showing me. Fucking
I don't like your
proximity. Well, you mean you can't have a great long distance relationship?
He says that a lot of people choose relationships based on proximity, meaning that like they're in their sphere somehow. And then
that's good or bad?
he said it's not good or bad. It's just like this is how most relationships end up. Number 1 is proximity. Number 2 is convenience.
Aren't they the same thing?
No. Proximity is like,
Are you talking about that's how people end up in relationships?
yes.
One of the two.
Yes.
Reasons?
Yeah. Like he said that a lot of people think like the number 1 reason that you're in a relationship is like actual attraction, but that's a factor, but not the leading factor. One of the leading factors is proximity. And the number 1 reasons that most people stay in relationships, even if they're not working, is convenience, because it would be harder for them to leave than to actually put in the work and stay. And if you can be one of those people that like tell yourself the truth of like, hey, here's some of the things I know I need to work on. Here's what I'm going to do about it. And the other person can meet you at the same place. Now you're setting an intention of like, hey, this is valuable enough for us to make an investment of our time, our energy, our money. But if only one person is willing to step up to the plate, then it's doomed. Right? Like you have to really look at it from that. It's like it is a team of effort to run a business, have a family, have a career, have a home, have goals, have dreams that you want to pursue. It's all of those have to be like made
Sounds like
intentionally.
a lot of work.
Yeah, because it is. It is. And that's the truth.
Just got to be willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
So end with that.
Okay.
Do the work.
Do
the fucking work.
Do your job.
All right, gang. So we will see you guys in 2 weeks and have an awesome weekend. I guess it's Friday tomorrow. Close enough.
Well, I don't know when this is going to go out. So.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next time.